Okay, so this is the sketch that I made. Remember, we start with basic shapes. We're going to start with clay the same exact way. So what you guys need when you start, you need a container of water that you can use, your little pinch pot that you guys made, and then I would lay your tools out. So you have your sponge, you have your rib, you have your hand tools, your modeling tools, the needle file, not needle file, that's jewelry. You have your needle tool, your plastic knife, your shaping card, and your paint brushes. These you aren't really going to need until you start coming together with your project. And you guys have your clay, which you always keep wrapped up in the bag, and you never, ever, ever take it out because it'll start to dry. Y'all see what happened to your pinch pot, like how dry that is now? Like, it's not cold anymore, it's dusty. This is also very fragile, so don't be tossing it around. Try and keep it safe. So the first thing you're going to do is decide what the biggest part of your project is. My body is obviously the bigger than the tail, and it's bigger than the head, and it's bigger than everything else. You always start with your biggest spot. Because if I make my tail and my head and my little pieces, and then I make the body and it's not big enough or it's too big or too small, then I gotta make it all over again. This lump of clay right here, this pound, is all you get too. So don't use all of it to make the body, because then you won't have enough to make anything else. So what I would do with your clay is take it and kind of rip it in half, at least, so you've half your clay. You don't have to use all of the clay either, so it's better to have a little bit of extra. You put it back in the bag, you get all the air out, and you seal it, because air and clay makes it dry, and it's bad news. So now I have this lump of clay. My biggest shape is a circle, so just like with your pinch pot, you want to make it into a circle. So I would round it out into a basic shape first. I'll put my sketch over here. And then start to round it on the table. We are going to be hollowing these out because this right here is like a giant clay bomb that when it goes in the kiln, it will explode. But you want to do that when it hardens a little bit because it may not be able to support itself. So we're not going to worry about that too much today. What you're going to do is just worry about rounding it out and making it perfect. So you can roll it around on the table to get rid of any lumps and bumps. You can also roll it in your hands. That'll do the same thing. And you can use your fingers, too, to kind of smooth it. So if you have spots you want to get rid of. The clay is really wet when you take it out of the bag, so you'll notice that. If it's sticking to your fingers, you can add the tiniest, see a drop of water? Tiniest amount. And smooth it out. Like that. So, again, I don't want to take all of this time to make my perfect monster. I'm going to keep working on it while you guys are working on it to kind of perfect my project. But the first thing you want to do is build your biggest shape, and you want it to be as smooth and neat as possible. So now that I have built my shape, you're going to work your way down with smaller shapes. I would keep your tiny little things till the end. There's no point in making them now because they'll fit, and it's not good to attach them. We need the clay to harden up slightly. So I would work on biggest shapes and work your way down to the smallest shapes. And again, you're not going to hollow this right away. I will show you how to hollow in this little demo, but you're not going to do it yet. So I have my body. I would keep smoothing it, like I said. Dot of water if I need to. See how that smooths everything out. You're also at the end going to go back in with a wet paintbrush and use the paintbrush to smooth. So get it as smooth as you can, but it doesn't have to be perfect right away because you will be touching this, obviously, and blending. All right, so the next shape that I'm going to do is I'm going to make my tail. So I'll take as much clay as I think I'm going to need for the tail. Again, letting all the air, squeezing all the air out, sealing the stack up. And I'm going to start making that shape. So you're going to use your hands to squeeze it. That's the best way to move clay around in the beginning to get a basic shape of that. And then once you have that basic shape and you're happy with it, look, That's kind of big for my body, so I'll take some more clay off. It's always good to start with a little more clay than you think, because you take it off, it's hard to add it back together once you take it away. You can do it, but it's just more of a pain in the rear end. So I'm going to keep on smoothing my tail. Use a little bit of water. And you're not going to attach your appendages, your parts. You're not going to attach them right away. Because when you guys feel your clay, you'll feel it's really sticky. And when it is sticky like this, it's easy to manipulate it and build stuff. But with gravity, if it's really soft, as you attach it, like it's easy for it to fall down too. So those stages of clay that we kind of talked about, you'll realize them as you start working with clay. Like ideally, I would have done an activity where you all can feel the different stages of clay, but I can't because we can't share stuff. So you'll come to get an idea of what that feels like. And just keep in mind, it's always better to have your clay softer than you need it, than if it starts drying out and we need to make it soft again, it's harder, especially once your projects are started. So a little bit of water, like I said, like if you dump, you don't want to get this thing soaking wet just because it wrinkles like right there. But you also don't want to make your clay soaking wet.
Did you use like too much water?
Yeah, did I?
Yeah.
No.
It looked like you used a lot.
Just a little bit on my finger. Like that's all. If you use too much water, there'll be water everywhere. Like you will know that you used too much water. So keep on smoothing it. And I would make your parts first, and you're gonna let them sit in your bin overnight with it sealed because it'll harden up a little bit. You don't want to, like I said, you don't want it to be too soft while you attach it, just because it makes it harder for you. Once it hardens a bit, then it's a little bit easier to attach things. So I like how that looks, or is gonna look. So you guys would let it harden. I'm gonna start hollowing it out because I'm showing you guys how to do it. Do not do this. Do not do this right away. In your kit, you should have a loop tool, which looks like this. Mine's really, really small, but you all should have a tool that has a loop on the end of it. This is what you can use for hollowing. And what you do is you just take the clay and you start to scoop it out. The loop tool will make it easy for you to scoop. And because mine is tiny, it's going to make my life a little more difficult. But for you guys, it'll be a whole lot easier. So when you hollow it, what you're looking for is that your clay, like I said, it's like pencil thickness thick. And this would be much easier, again, if I had let it harden a little bit, but for demonstration purposes, I'm not going to do that. So you just start scooping it out with your tool. Use that loop that's on the end and like go in a circle. You're not going to scoop it like you're eating ice cream. You're just going to use it and go in a circle, and that gradually will start taking your clay away. And you're going to hollow it pretty much all the way through. Like I want to hollow this all the way down to the end of my tail. I don't want to leave extra clay in here because that can make it explode. It's also a waste of clay. All this stuff that you scoop out, you can then use for details that you add on. And this is going to be the hardest part for those of you at home because I can look at it in your camera, but it's going to be hard for me to actually see how thick your projects are. So that's something you want to keep in mind. Also, you guys don't want to attach things if you're going hybrid, but you're bringing it back and forth to school on the bus or in somebody's car, and attaching little tiny, we're not at home anymore, no more phones. Attaching little tiny things will fall off in the bus or car if you like jostle your box around. So that's one of the last things you guys want to add. So I would keep on hollowing this, but you can see this is like the thickness of a pencil. So you guys here can see like this is how thick it should be. Roughly the size of a pencil. Like I'm not going to compare a pencil to your project, but roughly that size. Small things like horns, little arms, you do not have to hollow out. If they are the thickness or smaller of a pencil, you don't have to hollow them out. So like if I added horns on here, that'd be fine. I would hollow out this part too, and you hollow it out from the bottom. I can show you what mine looks like later, but you hollow it out from the bottom. So the other thing that I want to show you guys today is just slipping and scoring and why we made these little pinch pots. Any extra clay you have, always make sure you just put it aside and don't let it sit out for like hours on end. Like, you know, you can kind of gradually, as you do it, put it back in the bag. All right, so you guys made this pinch pot to use for slip. And if you were here and it was normal, we'd have a container full of slip. And if you remember, slip is like that liquidy clay. It's like clay and water in a blender. It's like the glue that holds it together. And we're not here and we can't share, so that's why we all made our own little slip pots. So when you're ready to attach things, you're going to take your sponge and you're going to put it in the water. And you're going to squeeze some of the water in there. Like, you're not going to pour this thing full of water. You're just going to drip some of it in there. Because what happens is this clay is not fired, so it's going to eventually soak up that water from inside. It'll pull it into it. But you're going to use your paintbrush with this little, like, the little tiny amount that's in there. So it's, like, not that much. And you're going to use it to make your own slip. So instead of a blender where you'd use clay and water, you use your paintbrush to mix the clay with the water to get slip. And slip is this, like, it's like liquid clay. So it shouldn't look like water. It should look like thicker liquid clay, like that. And then as necessary, as the water gets absorbed into your project, just add water as necessary. So again, it shouldn't be like my water cup full of water, but it should be like this thinned out clay. All right, once I build all of my parts and they're ready to be put together, I'm going to show you guys how to score and slip. This is the single most important thing that you're going to learn in ceramics because you learn it for every project that you make. When you score and slip, you're going to score, and that means basically just roughing up the surface. So this tool is good because it's got the teeth on it. You could use any tool you want. So you make it rough, like rough, you know. Oh, look at that, rough. You guys don't laugh at my jokes. And then score where you're going to attach it. So both pieces you attach have to be scored. So you want it rough like this. Then you're going to take that slip that you made, that liquid clay, and on the smaller part that you're attaching, you're going to brush this on here. So you just brush it around. You should not have a wet mess. Like, this should not be like running all over the place or dripping. You just want it to kind of be enough that you brush on there. Too much and it's going to be too hard for you to blend it because it'll be all squishy. And then what you do is you stick them together. Make sure that it fits where you want, like the angles that you want it to fit. So like I want the tail to rest on here, so I make sure that it is doing that. Push them together gently. Then you use your finger at first to blend. So I'm taking this clay and I'm blending it up like that. Same thing on the other side. I'm just taking the clay and I'm blending it up like that. So I'm using my finger to smush it. Now, smaller parts, like your finger might not be able to get in there because you've got normal sized fingers and you're trying to get in smaller places. You can use your modeling tools to get in little places and to help you blend better. But ideally, you don't want to see where this seam is. You don't want anyone to know that you added that together. So you're going to take your time and you're just going to blend it so it's totally blended in. Like this little divot right here, like see how it goes in a little bit? I'll pull some clay from over here to kind of fill that in. Or I may add a small little coil of clay, like a scarf. That's what I compare it to. Think of like a scarf. It goes around your neck. You want to roll out like a little worm of clay, like that. Doesn't have to be perfect, like it can be lumpy, that's fine. And you're going to wrap it around where you want it to go, push it in, and then you can use that clay to blend into both sides. So that's something else you can do if you do not have enough clay to blend them together. And then I would keep on blending it. So for tomorrow, I'm going to keep on working on this, and I'm going to perfect my, make it more perfect, and tomorrow we'll continue the demonstration on more. None of you should even get to adding anything together today.